morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Now, as you might recall, on Monday I predicted that there would be a race in Hollywood as to who could sign up O'Shea Jackson Jr. first for what would be his follow-up project to the breakout hit Straight Outta Compton, a film which was a huge box office performer and which many people said the reason they wanted to see the film was to see O'Shea Jackson Jr. and to see how he did as an actor, considering they're fans of his father, Ice Cube, who he portrays in Straight Outta Compton. And the race has been won, and the winner is Will Packer, who of course had an inside track on the duo, Ice Cube and O'Shea Jackson Jr., because he not only co-produced Straight Outta Compton, but he produces Ice Cube's ride-along movies. So again, not only did he have an in with the duo, but if he hadn't won this race, I think it would have been somewhat embarrassing for him. But it's all good, or at least it's all good for now, because the actual movie that they're making seems a little bit tricky. So let's discuss. Now, the title of the movie is April 29th, 1992, and that's the big headline. Now, that's a very important date in history. It's the first day of the LA riots. It's when they began. Of course, those are the Rodney King riots, and they're a big part of not only NWA's real-life story, but the Straight Outta Compton movie. So you can understand Ice Cube and O'Shea Jackson, who will co-star in this movie, by the way, continuing to reference that and, make sure that, people don't forget. It's a very slippery slope. You don't want to look like you're trying to capitalize on a very tragic part of history. But of course, I think people have great respect for Ice Cube in this matter, considering how, he spoke a lot of truth with his music during that time period, and brings it up again today when it's still very much relevant. But then here's where things get even trickier and more slippery. Slipperier is not a word. But anyway, is this a movie? You tell me what you think. While it's called April 29th, 1992, here's the plot of the movie, which is actually not about the riots. I don't know how they relate to the story, as you're about to hear, but I guess they're taking place in the background. So anyway, April 29th, 1992, the movie is going to be an action thriller. And this is the way it's described. It tells the story of an ex-criminal who'll be played by Ice Cube, who must save his son, his real-life son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., when a group of thugs raid his place of work in the hopes to steal an expensive amount of platinum. Maybe they're trying to use the LA riots as a cover, but again, why would you, if you're trying to talk about how justified the LA riots were, why would you then say, oh, but they were also used to cover up criminal activity, right? Like, not everybody rioted for a good cause. I mean, that seems like something you wouldn't want to personally introduce into the conversation. But also, it's fine if you, I guess, again, great respect for Ice Cube and his part in this, moment in history. And I'm sure that he has great respect for it and takes it very seriously. But why would that be the title of the movie, right? It would be like making similarly, saying, oh, hey, I'm going to make an action thriller about a heist, a heist gone wrong that takes place on the day of September 11th, and I'm going to call the movie September 11th, 2001. It just seems like a very odd choice, and I just don't understand why, if it's not going to be primarily about, about the actual riots, why would you title that? Why would you even go anywhere near it? I mean, people love Straight Outta Compton, they love Ice Cube, they love O'Shea Jackson Jr., as they should. As I said in my review, he's very talented. Why not just make a great movie? I think it's weird to double dip on the riots, or I guess triple dip at this point for NWA, and I think it's weird to put a fictional crime story in the forefront of a movie that's titled April 29th, 1992. But this is a very tricky situation. I'm curious to how you feel about it. I'm willing to give them, obviously, the benefit of the doubt because, again, I have so much respect for everyone involved here, so let's see how it all shakes out. But I think they should have fixed this with the press release and made sure that it was clear from the get-go. So I'm curious to what you think again, and so that's the first story of the day. Now, the second story of the day is about another project that's coming together, but it's not quite as set as this one. The April 29th, 1992 movie is ready to go. But Hugh Jackman is still in talks. He's still just, considering the idea of starring as Odysseus in the Odyssey movie that Lionsgate is making, which is the big reward for their Hunger Games team. Francis Lawrence and producer Nina Jacobson have made 3 Hunger Games films, which have been incredibly lucrative for the Lionsgate company, the distributor movie studio, and have pretty much almost, I think with the addition of Twilight, Lionsgate acquired Summit. Those are the 2 franchises that built that empire. So as a reward, Francis Lawrence is going to adapt Homer's The Odyssey, which everybody, of course, has had to read. read. It's a wonderful book, lots of chances for action-adventure, and I think Francis Lawrence is a fantastic director. I've really been impressed with what he's done with the Hunger Games franchise, the sophistication he's managed to layer into it. So I think that he's very well matched with the source material, and I think that Hugh Jackman would be a good choice for it. And it's very interesting to see Hugh Jackman build his post-Wolverine career. He's, of course, starring in the upcoming movie Pan. He looks like one of the best things in the movie as the pirate Blackbeard. I'm very impressed with the creative risks he's taking there. I think that Les Mis was crucial in him, breaking the Wolverine image for himself, whereas prior to Les Mis, I think that's all people could see him as. He even joked about it at the Oscars when, he's saying, I'm also Wolverine. But I think that obviously he needs to have a career beyond that character, especially since, his final round as Wolverine is fast approaching in 2017. So he's, again, not totally signed, but he's interested in playing this role. I think he's a great choice. I think he brings necessary star power, but not guaranteed star power. But, the Odyssey is a sprawling epic, which has many opportunities to cast different actors. And if they can make something that looks truly spectacular, also they really benefit from the fact that no one's made a great telling of the Odyssey yet as a feature film. And many schools could utilize it, and many students certainly want to watch it. Although, you should read the Odyssey. It's very, very good. I would think that the Odyssey is such a long book, though, that I would actually consider making this like a set trilogy, because there are great breaking points within the story to do so. So I think this sounds very exciting, and I would love to see them be able to pull off a good Roman sandals epic, considering we haven't had one in quite some time. I think the last really big one, of course, was Gladiator. They're remaking Ben-Hur, but we'll see how that turns out. But this one sounds very good to me. So I'm curious, what do you think an Odyssey movie would do well? Do you think that Hugh Jackman would make a good Odysseus? And what do you think of Francis Lawrence and Nina Jacobson doing this as a Hunger Games follow-up? And it does beg the question, considering the fact that Lionsgate wants to stay in the Hunger Games business, who will take over that franchise for them? Nina Jacobson can, of course, produce multiple movies at a time, so she can stay involved in that, but Francis Lawrence, of course, will be too busy, and they'll have to find another director. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, the third story of the day is about Anthony Michael Hall. Now, a lot of people have been feeling really bad for him because he did not get the role of Rusty Griswold in the new Vacation movie, right? They recast it. He's the original. I mean, a lot of different actors have played Rusty, but he's the original Rusty. But, of course, they gave the role to Ed Helms. Although, considering how everything turned out with Vacation, I'm sure Anthony Michael Hall doesn't feel too bad anymore. But he's gotten a wonderful consolation prize. In fact, a role that I'm sure Ed Helms wished that he could get. So now things have flipped. What's the role? Well, Anthony Michael Hall has just been signed on to play Brad Pitt's sidekick, his military sidekick, in the War Machine movie that Brad Pitt is famously or infamously, we'll see how it turns out, making for Netflix. This is, again, that very big film. It's many people say is a game changer for Netflix to get such A-list talent on the streaming service. They paid $30 million for it, and as you might recall, the reason they were able to get it is because no other studio felt this picture was worth that kind of investment. But so Netflix said, we'll do it, and Brad Pitt's in the deal, and Brad Pitt is like, oh boy, and not only that, but he ended up bringing over Angelina Jolie, as we recently discussed. So the story, again, just as a refresher, is about a rock star general, a real-life general, who did an interview with Rolling Stone and said some not very appropriate things about Vice President Joe Biden, and as a result, was forced to resign. So it's going to be a satirical comedy. Probably they're hoping, I'm sure, Patton meets like the Coen brothers. Patton's a wonderful movie, by the way. If you've never seen Patton, you should definitely watch it. However, it's ridiculously long, so make sure that you don't get into it unless you have the time to truly enjoy it, not be like looking at the clock being like, how long is this movie? I got stuff to do. So set aside like 3.5 hours to watch that, but it's worth it. Anyway, I'm curious to what you think of this movie coming together. I mean, I know this is great news for Anthony Michael Hall, but do you think that that's the kind of legitimate supporting cast that Brad Pitt needs to make this movie seem real, right? I mean, that's, I think, the real hurdle with Netflix. Is it a real movie, or is it just a glorified TV movie? How do you make something that seems like it should be released in theaters rather than just another example of how TV is just getting so darn good? So we'll see what happens, but that picture's certainly coming together. And maybe also they're saving money with Anthony Michael Hall. They're like, we only have so much money in this budget, and a lot of it's going to Brad Pitt, and a lot of it's going to the production, so who's cheap? So we'll see. And also, Anthony Michael Hall certainly got nothing to lose, and he might end up really helping his career there. All right, so on to the viewer question from regular BTT viewer Brody Rule. And Brody says, hey, Grace, I'm back with a concern rather than a question. It's about the two Jungle Book films. While I am infinitely more excited for the Andy Serkis film rather than the Jon Favreau film, that's the Disney one, and Andy Serkis is for Warner Brothers, I just can't see this same film based on the exact same material, 1 year apart, making any money. What do you think? Well, just to clarify the situation, Jon Favreau's Jungle Book comes out April 2016, and then Andy Serkis's Jungle Book Origins comes out October 2017. That's just, as Brody Rule points out, just a year apart, and it's a big gamble on Warner Brothers' part, which, by the way, has been the biggest studio to contend with Disney in the live-action fairy tale arena. I mean, other people are considering getting into the fight, like Universal with The Little Mermaid, but right now only Warner Brothers is there, and they have their Pan film, but of course I think Pan, while it looks amazing, is DOA because they cast Rooney Mara as Tiger Lily. I just don't think they're going to be able to get over that, unfortunately, and it's a shame because the rest of the film looks so good. As I just said, I think that Hugh Jackman looks great in it, but I also love Levi Miller. I think that the actor, Garrett Hedlund as Hook is also a mistake because nobody likes Garrett Hedlund. It's been proven he does not, he's kind of a turn off to audiences. Maybe he'll find that role that turns things around for him, but I don't think it's going to be Pan. But anyway, as for these two movies being so close, I think that Warner Brothers rolled the dice and it looks like they've lost. Because here's what happened. I think that they said, we have Andy Serkis, they have Jon Favreau. We're totally going to win because we have no faith in Jon Favreau turning in anything that's at all unique or special. And I understand that. I think Jon Favreau did a nice job with the Iron Man movies, but Jon Favreau's never been this big artistic talent, right? So if I were Warner Brothers, I'd say, I'll put my Andy Serkis up against your Jon Favreau any day, Disney. But then lo and behold, as we all saw at the D23 Expo, Jon Favreau brought his A game. He turned it up to an 11 for the first time in his career. And that's because he's doing the entire film motion capture, and he's also adding like a masterly painting aspect to it, and really trying to do something that is, really pushes the edge of the envelope, which I don't think they expected at all from Disney and Jon Favreau. In the past, Jon Favreau has been an incredibly safe director. So, but Warner Brothers with Andy Serkis has no choice but to continue because they've already begun production on this film, and they certainly can't, cut it loose. And they have a very respectable cast that they've put together as well. So they're really just stuck, and it'll be interesting to see how the two films do. I think they'll certainly be interested in Andy Serkis's work because he's the prime talent in the motion capture field. But at the same time, I think that Andy Serkis, he's going to focus more on the quality of the acting, whereas Jon Favreau is going for shock and awe. So if I were Warner Brothers, I'd certainly be calling Andy Serkis into my office saying, you got to really plus your movie here because Jon Favreau's coming out of the gate with guns blazing. Not even out of the gate. He's just set up a warning flare, and it's beautiful. So I'm curious, what do you think? Which movie were you going to gravitate towards? And now after D23, has that presentation that they made changed your mind at all? And this is, granted, the general public hasn't even seen the sizzle reel that was shown at the expo, but the buzz off it is just that strong. And also the poster they released is absolutely breathtaking. So I'm curious to your thoughts. Do you think that Andy Serkis's film is DOA as well? And do you think, this is going to hurt Warner Brothers in the long run in trying to challenge Disney in the live-action fairy tale market? I mean, how many losses can they sustain? All right, that's today's, although, you know what? They sustained a ton of losses with their comic book movies, and yet it looks like they're finally rallying and might actually challenge Marvel. All right, so that's today's morning movie news. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please write down below today's top 3 stories and that viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered on Monday, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.